Hey there, island dreamers, locals, and anyone craving a slice of paradise. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time, to the Fun in Key West podcast, where the vibe is always laid back, the stories are salty, and the drinks, well, they're definitely frozen. I'm your host, Michelle O'Connor, your unofficial tour guide to the Conquered Public. Whether you're planning your first trip, your fifth trip, or you're just daydreaming about trading the cubicle for the ocean breeze, you are in the right place. Here's the deal. This podcast is your insider's guide to all things Key West. We're talking where to eat, hello, conch fritters and key lime pie, where to drink, spoiler alert, there will be rum, where to stay, and all the quirky, wonderful things that make Key West the one-of-a-kind paradise we all love. Plus, we'll keep you up to date on the latest happenings, festivals, events, maybe even the occasional Hemingway look-alike sighting. And just to keep things spicy, we'll be bringing on some amazing guests now and then, locals, business owners, and people who know the island like the back of their sandy hand. So grab your flip-flops, pour yourself a cold one, and let's escape to the island state of mind together, whether you're tuning in from your hammock or your commute, while wishing it was a hammock. We've got all the Key West goodness coming your way. Thanks for being here. It's going to be a lot of fun in Key West. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to the Fun in Key West podcast. Grab your coffee, Cuban, obviously, and settle in because today it's going to be a good one. This month's book, which is June of 2026, is The Green Flash at Sunset by Nick Shuck. And friends, this one stirred up some feelings. So we've got Nick himself on the mic to spill the story behind the story. We're chatting about why Key West is basically the world capital of reinvention, the four messy, lovable humans at the heart of the book, and how a story can be a little dark, but still leave you feeling weirdly hopeful. Good stuff. Before we dive in, big thanks to Cruisin' Tiki's of Key West. Yep, a floating tiki bar. BYOB, they bring the captain and cooler, and you bring the vibes. Check them out over at FunInKeyWest.com/tiki, Tiki. All right, let's get into it.
Welcome to Fun in Key West, where every day feels like a mini fest. Grab a drink, take it slow. We'll show you where the locals go. Food, fun, and stories to tell. Hidden gems you know so well. Your Key West experts here to say it's fun in Key West every day.
Welcome to the Fun in Key West podcast. I am so glad that you are here, and I'm really excited because today we are talking to Nick Shuck, right? Nick Shuck.
That's it, yeah.
He's the author of The Green Flash at Sunset, and that is our June pick for our book club. And I have to tell you, this book gave our group a lot to talk about. Some people loved the Key West setting. Some were really pulled into the characters. And if you said, Michelle, this one's got a little bit of a darkness to it. So we're going to go into all of that today. And we're going to talk about the story behind the story, why Key West works so well as a place for reinvention, and what happens to characters that are searching for freedom, but life keeps handing them things that they did not order. And I think that sums up the book pretty well. Nick, welcome to the Fun in Key West podcast.
Man, thank you for having me. Thank you for selecting Green Flash as the pick, the June pick. And that opening song was fun.
Yeah, I like it. It's a fun thing. So our book club has been reading Green Flash at Sunset. And I feel like this one is one of those books where everyone finishes it and they have something to say or ask. So before we get into the book itself, I want to start with you. I want if somebody's meeting you for the first time and, who are you that isn't on that book and, the inside the book? Who's Nick?
Yeah, I'm definitely not inside the book. I have to remind people that my work is fiction. It's especially when my mom reads it. I'm like, Ma, this is fiction. This is trying to tell a good story. Yeah, so I teach senior English here in
Mm-hmm.
Pensacola, Florida. I run a historic tour company, Emerald Coast Tours. Take people out on segways and walking pub tours. I call it, Pensacola's version of drunk history. I'm a father, 4 kids at the house.
Wow.
Lovely wife, Julie. She should be watching. Hey, Julie. From right around the corner in the house.
Right.
But yeah, I think that sums it up. I do, and then I try to write when I got time. Yeah.
Did you always want to be a writer?
I always, yeah. I won in middle school. I went to this thing called Young Authors of America.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I wanted to be a writer. I was just having fun in a middle school creative writing class and telling funny stories, and I liked making the class laugh. But it wasn't until I was 19, 20 years old that I really thought, I was like, I'm gonna do this. I read actually it's the 100th anniversary of The Sun Also Rises right
Mm-hmm.
there, and that was the book I read that I was like, this is what I'm gonna do, because I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was after high school, I felt like my only options were military, or I was like, oh my, I don't want to do that. And, my whole family had done it. My dad had done it, and so yeah, I was gonna be a beach bum, but I didn't. That wasn't gonna support anything. So I decided, I'm gonna write a book. I said, if Hemingway could do it, why can't I? I didn't realize how hard it was.
So, in all of the things that you do, high school teacher, run tours, author, do you feel like, even though they're separate parts of your life, but every aspect of it is you continue to tell stories?
Oh yeah, I think everything I do is really geared towards me attempting to get better at being a writer. I feel like that's like I want to be a writer, and the other things are, uh, the teaching. It's fun. I get to share, the love of literature with students that might not, and maybe inspire some to become lifelong readers. And hopefully, I always tell students, by the time they finish my class, hopefully some of them will take a vow of poverty and become English majors. So there is that part of it, but I teach it. It pays the bills, gives our family health benefits and retirement, and
Yeah, that's important.
I don't get those things as a writer. So.
No, we don't. So as we start to move through this conversation with Nick, if you're watching and you have questions for him, drop them down in the comments and we'll get those answered for you. But before we drift too far into the story, this episode is sponsored by Cruising Tikis of Key West. And you can learn more about them over at FunInKeyWest.com/tiki, Tiki. And I have to say, this is a tour that is absolutely Key West and just wrapped up in a 2-hour tour, because you get to go out on a floating tiki bar. It's a bring your own. So you bring your own beverage and your drinks. They provide the captain, the ice, and the cooler. And then you get to go on a sunset, tour. You can go out swimming and you get to see Key West from the water in such a unique experience. It's a floating tiki bar. So be sure to check them out over at FunInKeyWest.com, floating/tiki. So,
Hey, I got a question about the tiki bar. Are you able to, if say it's just 2 people traveling, are you able to just jump on one, or do you have to rent the whole tiki boat? Do you know?
We've been on there where it was just the 2 of us or the 3 of us. If we were traveling, it depends on how many people show up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
So
does
be
sound
sure to,
fun.
it is. It's a lot of fun. It's unique and it's a lot of fun. But green flash at sunset. I always like asking authors, where did this story come from? Because as our readers know, this one is quite a story. So what was the first spark for this book?
Was the ending. So I don't want to give that away for those that might not have read it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was I lived down in Miami my early 20s, so early 2000s, and I was down on Mallory Square, and I was watching this this street performer, the escape artist, and I thought this would be a fun idea for a novel one day. An escape artist from Key West, or at least living in Key West, and so I started jotting down some ideas, and then I had put it away for years, maybe 10 years, and then my wife and I probably had about 10,000 words written on it, and then in 2019, Julie and I went down there for our honeymoon, and as I was sitting back in Mallory Square and watching the street performers and people, burning their eyeballs out, waiting to see the sunset. I was sparked back. I was brought back to that moment, and I was like, I think I can finish this book now. I think I've got an idea of who this character is, and so without giving too much away, right? The ending that the escape artist does at the end of the book, that's where I started with.
Okay.
So I tend to work backwards. I was like, all right, so I got a character and I got him there, and I was like, so where does he live? And then I was like, well, he's, you can't just live in Key West, by yourself. So he's got to have some roommates. And what do they do? And then I started, and like the charter boat captain, I was like, 92 in the Shade is one of my favorite books of all time. So I was like, I'm gonna make him a charter boat captain, and so I just started piecing them together. And then the songwriter, I've always, like, how are you gonna write about Key West and not include, musicians?
Right.
So I threw her in there, and then so I had these three kind of street performers, these three, people trying to survive down there, these roommates, and then I always have to include the panhandle of Florida. So I was like, all right, that's what I'll do. I'll have somebody escaping the panhandle and going to paradise, and then they get down there and they're like, oh, it's, maybe it's not as easy as it seems.
So in the context of the green flash, what does it mean in the story? I'm gonna make you put your student's hat on. So what did the author mean by naming it the green flash?
Yeah. So the idea is that I kind of looked at it as like a metaphor. This idea that you're always, when you see all these people standing out at Mallory Square, and not only Mallory Square, I've seen them, anywhere that the sun sets into the water. People are looking, they want to see the green flash, and I guess that was really what it was in 2019 when I was down there. I was watching people, and I was one of them. I've done it many a times, and I'll still do it when I'm down there. But this idea of you staring into the sun and risking this idea of hurting your eyes, and this idea of but you do it anyway. So it's this idea of chasing your dreams, kind of this idea that they might not ever pan out the way you think, but you do it anyway.
Right.
And I think of that as my own writing. I'm still gonna do it. I'm not selling 1 million copies. My books haven't been made in the movies yet. I'm still gonna do it. There's a really great Chris Christopherson song called "To Beat the Devil," and it's about songwriters. This idea of nobody listening, and you're playing to a room full of people that might not, either a room full of people that's not listening or people not even showing up, but you still do it. And he's at the end. He's like, at least I drank his beer for nothing. I'm still going to be a songwriter. And so I look at it the same way. I'm still going to attempt to be a writer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep doing it, whether, all it takes is a couple readers to remind me of why I do it, and they reach out and they're like, hey, I read your work and I liked it. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. So I'm glad I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're re-buying all of the vinyl that we had, and one of the albums I picked up was Chris Christopherson live in Austin, and
Mm,
so he has a lot of the stories in there, so that song's on there, and so it's a cool thing to be able to listen to it in that context, and now I'll listen to it in a new context as I listen to that. But
yeah.
it sounds like Randall was your first character you had all wrapped up and said, okay, here's my central guy, and I'm going to build around him, right?
Well, actually, it was Eli was
Eli?
the first one
Okay.
I had. And then, but Randall, once I was like, well, who's his roommate's going to be?
Okay.
And then I really liked writing the Randall character.
Yeah.
I thought he was really interesting. And again, that was my attempt at, kind of a nostalgic callback to the Tom McGuane era of writing in Key West. With the charter boat captains but I wanted to put a little spin on his character. The masculine charter boat captain. I wanted there to be another side to him as well. Yeah.
All right. Now you're born and raised in Florida, right?
Yeah, Pensacola.
Yeah. Pensacola. So you're up in the Panhandle, the Emerald Isle. I mean, all that beautiful section up there. Why did, as you read the book, Key West actually, I think, is a character in the book. And I may be wrong. I'm talking to the author. You tell me if I'm wrong or not. But what is it about Key West that made it the absolute perfect place for all of these characters to come together?
It's if you think of like Florida as like this microcosm of the Pensacola, the opposite end, the complete the last two cities, Pensacola and Key West. In Key West and Pensacola, we've got this kind of running urban legend, it's called the Geronimo's Curse.
Right.
Geronimo was held captive here in Fort Pickens, and he cursed the land, like you can't ever leave. And so there's this idea of Key West always having this being the great escape. It opens it up to the Caribbean, and just when you're down there, it feels like a lot of opportunity. Probably the tourism. You have to kind of, at least for me, you have to kind of trick your mind into this fantasy world that exists down there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things I wanted to try to capture as well, is the fantasy of running away to Key West might not always be the reality of what exists down there.
I find it interesting. So I'm from Alaska, born and raised, and nobody when I was growing up there was from there, and so it was always the running conversation was you're either in the military or running from something. That's how you ended up there, and I get that same feeling in Key West. It's almost like this is as far as you can go. It's the end of the road. You can't go any further than this. And somebody's going to really need to be looking for me to find me. So do you think, based on that and your experience, that Key West kind of, and I think you wrote about it in the book that way too, Key West gives people permission to be somebody else or to think that they could be something else?
Yeah. And again, I think this kind of comes from the Jerry Jeff Walker when he took Jimmy Buffett down there. The idea that Jerry Jeff Walker wasn't his real name. He wasn't from Texas. He invented this Jerry Jeff Walker character.
Right.
And I think it was his song Stoney. H.R. Stonebeck was his buddy that he wrote Stoney about. And Stoney told him that. He's like, you can be whoever you want to be. He's like, go somewhere where nobody knows you and you just invent yourself. And so yeah, we had talked about, before we came on, we were talking about William McKean's mile marker 0, and that whole era of Tom McGuane, Jim Harrison, Jimmy Buffett, Richard Brodigan, those guys just living down there. That was really kind of my big inspiration for Green Flash at Sunset. Was this idea that you could go there and be whoever you want to be. Jimmy Buffett was a country singer when you listen to his first couple albums, and then Jerry Jeff Walker takes him down there, and the music, it created an entirely new genre of music almost. So yeah, I think that's what I was trying to capture with Key West. That if you go down there, and it, like you said, it feels like the end of the road. If you want to be an expatriate but still live within the United States, Key West is the place to do it.
Yeah, that's the place. And you can drive out of there. You're not kind of stuck. As someone who leads historic tours, do you look at a place differently than most people? I mean, are you always seeing the layers? What was here, what happened, what was paved over?
Yeah, I do. I love that aspect of traveling, and when I lead these tours, also I tell people it's fun for me because I get to see my own city, because I was born and raised in Pensacola, and I get to see it with tourist eyes. I get to see it with new eyes every time. But I also know the backstory, and I know the things that tourists might not see. And when I teach Beloved to my AP Lit students, she has a line in there. I'll paraphrase it, but it's this idea that the past still exists. If a house burns down, or if something happens and you're, that still exists out there. And so anytime I travel, I heavily research the history of that city and the town that we're at, and I think it's important for me, like I said, I don't know if it's most in other people, but for me, it's my way of appreciating where I'm visiting is, and I like that idea of the past still existing in I was about to say this part will get a little dark, but you've read my book, so it's all right.
It's all right.
There's a part in downtown Pensacola. It's called Plaza Ferdinand. It's the city center, basically. During Mardi Gras, and we have Palafox Market there, and all these things, and it's a beautiful park right in the center of downtown. But they also had lynchings there during the Jim Crow laws, and so for me, as I'm walking through that park, even if it's Palafox Market or it's a bright sunny day, I do still remember. I have these other, like you said, the layers still there. So the past doesn't just go away; they kind of work together, and so that's kind of what I was hoping to pull off with Key West and Green Flash at Sunset as well, to kind of add to the different layers of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I talk to our community, and I have a lot of information about over on our website, is the history of Key West. It isn't just Duval Street and all of that and Sunset at Mallory, although those are fun. I always remind people there's over 120 historic markers throughout town. And there's a story behind every marker. It's not just this, on this date such and such happened. It's the story of Key West, and its ebbs and flows, and its ups and its downs, and its people. And I think it adds something else to Key West that you have to really research and find, because Key West has done such a great job of trying to document its history for just the casual person walking around town, and other communities haven't done that so well. But I think that's why you take tours with you, so that you can learn all that stuff. So as people have probably figured out by now, there are 4 central characters in the book, and they all end up intersecting. And I have to say, I was reading this at the beach when we were up in Orlando, and we were exploring. So we were over at Indian Rocks, and I'm sitting on the beach, and I'm like, it can't get dark and we can't have sunset because I'm almost done. I gotta finish this because I got it so and put into it. And my Kindle was dying, so I'm like flipping over to my phone, and I mean it was quite the thing. But let's start with Janet. Janet is your character that's trying to reclaim herself, and she's from the Panhandle.
Hmm.
But her art becomes very centric to her story. What do you want people to understand about Janet? What was something that you wanted to make sure that they took away from her?
Well, that despite everything she's been through, and the horrendous marriage that she's getting out, attempting to escape, and nearly forgetting about, her passion for
Mhm.
art and photography, and that she still endures, and the hardships aren't going to go away. It's
Mhm.
not a it's not a happily, ever after kind of a story. Um, but I think it's realistic. You still have to find and hold on. It's easy to lose your passion. It's easy
Mhm.
to, I think it was the Stephen Stills song, failing was the easiest thing to do in
Mhm.
Southern Cross,
Yep. Yep.
and it is. It's very easy to just give up,
Mhm.
and Janet does not.
Mhm.
And she would have been a if anybody was going to give up,
Mhm.
Janet had every reason to do it,
Yeah.
and she doesn't. So, um, yeah, I think people often, when I talk to people, and they say, some of my stories tend to get darker or
Mhm.
gritty,
Yeah.
and they do, but I think they're hopeful, like
We're
in
going
a
to get a
world
little bit more
of
into
chaos.
that. So I did have, so you brought it up, and I did have a couple people reach out and go, wow, this was darker than I thought. Um, what is your reaction when people say that?
Uh, it's no darker than what's happening. Like, just read the newspaper, turn
Yeah.
on the news. It's I mean, the world is chaotic, and people can be horrible, and it exists out there,
Mhm.
and so if I'm writing a story that doesn't include that stuff, I feel like I'm telling a lie.
Okay.
And you know I think literature should have some type of cathartic release at the end. I want people to feel all the emotions. um it's nice to watch a feel good story, movie, or but for some reason when I'm reading, I don't I don't personally enjoy a book that is complete escapism,
Okay.
or isn't, because reading, watching a movie, you can watch an hour and a half,
Hmm.
but if you're going to read a book, you're putting in some time, and so when someone finishes one of my books, um I'm really appreciative. They gave it the time that it took to finish it, whether it's 5 hours, 6 hours, depending on people's reading speed. But if I'm spending 6, 7, 8 hours, sometimes 15 hours on a book, I want to have some type of emotional connection to that book at the end. It's different than watching an hour and a half film where you just laugh and it's kind of goofy and it's over. That was just an hour and a half, but reading a book takes commitment.
Hmm.
So when I'm writing a book, when I first started Green Flash, I thought I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to write to the market. I'm gonna write
I was
something
going
that
to ask
might
you that.
sell.
Hmm.
And but as I started writing it, it didn't go that way. I felt that I would be doing myself a disservice if I wasn't being honest
Okay.
as a writer. I didn't want to just write a book that could potentially sell.
Right.
Sure, that'd be nice, like,
Yeah.
but I want my books to sell really well, but also because I put the time to be honest and authentic, and it was there's a Bukowski poem, and at the end he says, uh, he goes through all these things. I think it's called "So You Want to Be a Writer," and he goes through all these things about it could be sleeping on park benches. He could go not eating for 3 or 4 days at a time. He goes through all the hardships of actually trying to be a writer. And then he says, but at the end, you will have laughed with the gods. This idea that if you stick with it and you're being honest with yourself and authentic, there's no other feeling like it. And I get that when people email me or there's really a connection to my stories. That one person, it makes a difference. I was like, I'm glad I decided to write what I wanted to write and not try to write toward a genre or marketability or anything like that.
No. So do you think a book can be dark but ultimately hopeful?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have to, because
Mhm.
if like I said, the world is pretty, there's a lot of evil in the world, and you
Yeah.
have to be optimistic and hopeful to navigate it.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, did you try to write this a different way? And you've answered that, but did you always have from the beginning of how these four lives were going to intersect?
No,
No. Okay.
I don't write and I think that's why it takes me so long to write, is because I don't have a plan of where these stories are going. I might have a character, I might have a scene,
Hmm.
and then I try to figure it out as it goes. I feel like if I plotted it out, um, if it's not exciting to me, then it might not be exciting to the reader. And
Right.
I think that's why it takes me so long to write. Is I think I plan a lot of I play around with different scenarios and in my
Hmm.
head before I actually commit it to the screen.
Right.
I know you're supposed to just barrel through a first draft, and Hemingway said all first drafts are shit, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to just barrel through and then figure. But I don't like doing that. I kind of edit as I'm writing. I rearrange pages
Yeah.
and paragraphs, and change the characters, and
Hmm.
yeah, I don't follow my own advice. Yeah.
So it sounds like you write your way through the storyline. You don't have an outline. You don't do anything you tell your students that they should do for writing. It's you just write your way through the story.
Yeah, I figure it out as I go. I think if I'm not excited about what I'm writing,
Hmm.
then I don't know, if I'm not surprised by what I'm writing, then I don't know if the readers will be excited about it or they'll be surprised about it. I want to, when I finished Green Flash at Sunset, I remember getting to the end, and I was like, man, like that. I didn't know that's where it was going. I didn't
Oh,
know
wow.
that's how it was gonna turn out for these people.
At what point in time did you know where you were going to go with it?
So I think I always knew Eli's ending. He was
Okay.
the ending I wanted
Okay.
to culminate. And it all happened at the at the sunset.
Right.
I wanted all these endings to happen as the sun was setting. And Janet's, I didn't know hers until I wrote it.
Okay.
As it was happening, as it was unfolding. Eli's I knew, and I kind of stuck by it. Randall's I didn't.
Okay.
That happened as it was unfolding as well. And then Stacy's, I feel, is kind of the cutesy ending.
Yeah, you kind of gave her that.
And I kind of had that one in mind, and I
Hmm.
didn't want to waver from it. I was like, I liked it. I wanted to have one kind of like hallmark thing.
One hallmark moment.
Mm,
Um, as people are watching, and if you guys have any questions, be sure to put them down in the comments. But so this was your third book you wrote, right?
yes.
What did you learn that you did differently with this book that you didn't do with the first two?
Um, with the first one, short chapters.
Okay.
Uh, I go back and I was like, man, these chapters are too long. So with the second and third one, they move through. So I learned, technique wise that, uh, and with panhandlers, my second one,
Mm-hmm.
that's,
I see
where I
that.
started playing around with the, timelines
Mm-hmm.
and I really liked that. So I kept that with the Green Flash. Uh, I think I don't know what I learned differently from Green Flash. I will know what I learned from Green Flash. I think when I finish my fourth one.
Oh, well, we'll
I
get
think.
into that. You're teasing me here
Yeah.
now. Um, what was the hardest part about finishing Green Flash?
I, I just think the hardest part in writing in general is just doing it, sitting, making yourself sit down and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of times that it just yeah, it feels almost like you're, at least for me, like that you're neglecting other parts of
Mm-hmm.
life to write. It's like, you have to have a moment of just you, and it feels almost selfish, and it feels silly.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna create, completely like make up a story that may or may not sell. You
Right.
know, and so there's a part of you that you have to, you know, talk yourself out of. It's this idea, like I mentioned with Janet, right? It's
Yeah.
easy to just give up. It's easy to be like, look, it's, I'm doesn't feel like, I'm not a James Patterson. I'm not I'm not making a living doing this. Uh, so it feels silly at times, and I think that's the hardest part of writing. If I just sat down and do it, I could work through a book, I think, quicker
Mm-hmm.
than what I do. But yeah, it's finding the time,
Right.
with all the other stuff that goes on in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Busy wife, kids, and you are actually running a tour company there. And so, how did Emerald Coast Tours come about? On top of
There was
everything
a
else you do, you now run a tour company. So, I just want to know how you found time.
yeah, there was a like a entrepreneur contest.
Hmm.
Pensacola 15 years ago when I started it was pretty industrial downtown. We had a wastewater treatment plant down there, so it smelled like sewer downtown. There wasn't much going on, but things were changing. They were moving the sewer plant. There was a guy that had invested a lot of money in downtown Pensacola. He was building a ballpark, and they were bringing the Blue Wahoos, our AA affiliate with the Miami Marlins. They're here, and so there was some change happening in Pensacola. So he was running an entrepreneur like contest. The winner would get $50,000, and some of my friends had started businesses that I couldn't believe that they were now business owners. I was like, well, if y'all can do it, I was like, I can run a business too. I mean, and so I was trying to come up with an idea to enter this contest, and my buddy Tim Lara was visiting. He lives in Hawaii now, but he grew up here. We were
Hmm.
good friends growing up, and he moved to Hawaii and started a tour company over there.
Hmm.
He runs Hawaiian paddle sports,
Okay.
and he was over here, and I was like, man, I gotta come up with an idea like you've got, where it feels like you're always on vacation when you're working. And he said a line of segways. They just started running Segway tours in Maui,
Hmm.
and he says I see them out all the time. He's like, Pensacola would probably be a good place to do that. And I gave it some thought, and then I was teaching at the time at this alternative ed school, and I was teaching geography, and I learned, a lot of these kids, they didn't even know their own history in
Wow.
Pensacola. So I came up with this project where I gave them parts of the city to research. Then I picked 12 of the best presentations, and we went out on a school bus. And those 12, anytime we'd stop, they would just it was like they were being a tour guide. They would
Hmm.
present. And so when he did that, I combined those two. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I know what I can do. And then so over in New Orleans shortly after, and I saw a line of segways. I was at Harry's Corner. I remember the bar and saw a line of Segways go by. Because I thought they would look hokey at first. Like nobody actually does Segway tours. You know, this was 2011, 2012. And so finally I called the Segway tour company in New Orleans and had a blast. I was like, man, these things are so much fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so I was like, I'm going to do it. That night I called my buddy Tim and I said, I'm going to start a Segway tour company. And, yeah, so I did it.
There you go. And it's still up and running today, correct?
It is. Yeah, I told myself if I could do it for about 3 years, that would be a fun little side job. And I'm in my 15th year now. So.
And you do pub tours too, right?
Yeah, that's our version of drunk history. Yeah, take people. That one's walking. Yeah, it's not on Segways.
I wouldn't be pub tours and Segways wouldn't work.
And we take people to we go to 5 different bars. You learn the history of the bars. That's the other thing. I did a pub tour one time in Dublin, Ireland, and I didn't learn any history. Oh. We just went bar to bar, and everybody got really drunk. And then I did a walking tour one time in New Orleans, and believe it or not, in New Orleans, we didn't stop for any drinks. And it was like 110 degrees out. We're standing in the middle of a cemetery. I don't remember which cemetery. And I was like, man, I could use a drink right now. It's so hot. And so that was the idea between those two. I was like, I'll do one where you learn history and you get to drink.
There you go.
And then that TV show, right around the same time I started that TV show on Comedy Central started, Drunk History. And everybody's like, oh, this is like Drunk History. And so I just kind of ran with it. I was like, yeah, this is Pensacola's version of Drunk History.
There you go. There you go. So if anybody's in Pensacola, be sure to check out Emerald Coast Tours, because I think...
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some amazing stuff there. And I'll put some links down in the show notes for that. So talking about pub tours and stuff, so if all your characters, which they do at some point in time in the book, but let's pretend they're not in the book right now. If your characters all walked into a Key West bar, what would they order? Who starts talking first and who gets in trouble?
Stacy starts talking first. Who gets in trouble? Probably Stacy.
Probably.
What do they order? I think Randall, depends on which character he is that night.
Right.
He's just a charter boat captain. Him and Eli, they'll have, 3 or 6 beers. Probably something cheap, some High Life. Stacy, she's drinking whatever she can get somebody to buy her.
Right.
And Janet, if she gets peer pressured into it, she'll have a glass of wine.
I think that sums them up. That's about the good summation of that. So the book deals a lot, and we touched a little bit on this, about reinvention, people trying to reinvent themselves. Just about every one of your characters went through something. They had trauma and baggage, and they carried it with them through the story. And they tried to reinvent themselves, tuck that baggage back into the closet. Do you think people can really outrun their past?
I don't know if you can outrun it, but I think you can... I think you can overcome it. I think you can change it. You can't change the past, but you can change your trajectory going forward. I don't think you're glued to that past. And I try to, that's one thing I try to teach my students as well. It's like you're about to graduate high school, like you're going out. I was like, you can do whatever you want. I know it sounds cliche, but you really can do whatever you want to do. And one of the books I like to end one of my senior classes with is Into the Wild. And it's this idea of Chris McCandless when he goes out to, you're from Alaska, you're probably well aware. Yep. But he decided he was not going to do what his parents had expected him to do. gets rid of his inheritance. He decides not to go to grad school, and there's a talk that his sister did years after Into the Wild came out, and you can find it on YouTube. It's called like "You're Not Your DNA" or "Your DNA Doesn't Define You," something along those lines. There's this idea that he'd come through from a. It was kind of touched on in the book, but John Krakauer kind of either the family didn't let it on, or he kind of kept it a little bit out of the book. But he came from a pretty abusive family as well, and he was like, I don't want to be my dad.
Right.
I don't want to be like my dad. I'm going to do the opposite of what my dad did. And I think a lot of people get trapped into that family expectations or societal expectations, and so I think you can reinvent yourself. I think I really truly believe people can they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. It might not work out as you had planned, but
At least you tried.
you won't know. I mean, yeah, the worst that's going to happen is you're still the same person.
Yeah, that's the worst that could happen.
Yeah.
As people read Green Flash at Sunset, what is something you want them to walk away with? And if they walk away with it, you go, yes, that is the reason why I wrote the book.
Oh man, that's a good question.
I have them every once in a while.
Well, you'd mentioned earlier the idea that Key West felt like a character to you, and that when you read it, and one of the things I really like to do when I travel somewhere is read a book set in that place. And I don't want it to feel generic. I don't want the setting to feel generic. I want them to be able to almost follow a map. I did it with my first one, Native Moments in Tamarindo, Costa Rica. And, but I feel like it captures a moment in time. So it's like almost like a snapshot of, and I want people to, if they go there, to really get a sense of the place. And that way, if they're not there, but they've been there before, maybe it's nostalgic for them, and if they haven't been there, if they read it and haven't been there and then go there, they're like, you know what, this felt exactly like how it was in the book. I think to me, setting is extremely important when it comes to writing. And I think I really try to capture a sense of the place. And with my second book, Panhandlers, that's really what I was doing. There is a main character, but it's 12 different stories. I took the idea from James Joyce's Dubliners.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'll do one called Panhandlers, and it's all these different stories, intertwining characters from the Panhandle of Florida. And so, there's one thing I want people to take away from it is I'm hoping I'm doing justice to the places that I'm writing about. I want them to feel a real sense of place when they're reading it.
That's awesome. So we'll have a few more moments here with you, but so what's next for you? What are you working on?
Man, I started one before I started Green Flash at Sunset. I'm about half through it. It's so much research. It's set during Reconstruction, and it's set during Reconstruction. So researching what the Gulf Coast was like right after the Civil War has bogged me down quite a bit. I will finish it. It's I've been writing these articles for online magazine over in Fairhope, Alabama, and that's kind of, I get paid for that. Kind of taking my writing time. They're fun to write. I write like profiles of people around the city and things like that. So that, it's with a Scenic 98 Coastal, and they're fun to write, but they it takes my writing time away from fiction writing, and so
Right.
I am working on another one. Um, and another thing I'm gonna do is my father-in-law has written a really great memoir of
Okay.
his time in growing up in Scobie, Mississippi,
Ooh.
and I told him I'd help him format that.
Okay.
You know, it's a great story. So I've got some other projects that I'm gonna kind of keep myself busy
Okay.
while I continue researching the reconstruction of between of the Gulf Coast, and then I'll get back to that story eventually. I'll have a fourth book soon
Soon
ish.
ish. Well, Michaela's saying reading Native moments made them feel like they've been there. Really cool experience. So
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping happens. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you, Michaela.
yeah. So yeah, that's what we want to hear. So I always, as we finish up, and I'll give anybody else an opportunity to have a question or a comment, but we always have a standard questions that we ask people who come join us. So when you're in Key West, what's the first place you go to as soon as you're there?
I really like uh, Pepe's.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their Bloody Marys are
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. Um, you know what I really like doing, and I probably shouldn't say this, but that little corner store right on the right there by the wharf.
Mm-hmm.
I like getting a beer from that corner store and just walking the docks and the wharf down there. You know, it's a so I got this weird thing. As far as going out to eat and going out to drink, and um, I like sitting on benches and talking to.
Mm-hmm.
We got this. I'm not gonna mention his name. We got this guy that we run into all the time
Mm-hmm.
down there, and he's probably got a pretty bad reputation, so I won't mention his name. But it's really funny to like. We just run into him. We don't plan to meet up with him,
Right.
and but we see him all the time, and it's people like that, the characters like that that make it. He actually made it into the book, and I used his real name, and I didn't tell him.
So if anybody's reading the book and has been to Key West, they'll know exactly who Nick is talking about.
Yeah, I just figured him a little bit so he won't be as noticeable, but there's yeah, I like listening to musicians down there. We try to this past November we listened to Jockey Jord a lot. I think he's back out in California now, but man,
Mm-hmm.
he's fantastic. And Megan Barter, who went and
Right.
caught her a couple songs. She played at the Pier House one time and at the Island Dogs.
Yep.
We went and saw her.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I think I answered your question.
Yeah. Favorite happy hour?
Oh man, any of the ones along the wharf there when they do those. Yeah, I'm trying to think. My wife would probably have better idea than I would. I don't. We just kind of wander around, and if there's an open seat at the bar during happy hour, because it's really difficult to. And I love it's not happy hour, but I always like the fish sandwich at BO's.
Oh yeah.
Fish wagon.
Yep. That's your favorite
What's
lunch?
that? Yeah. Oh, is
Okay.
that what you're gonna ask next?
Yeah. Yeah. That's your favorite lunch
Yeah.
then, huh? It's from Fish Sandwich at
Yeah.
BO's. Okay.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
place were you thinking of?
We went and had a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What was the other place you were thinking of?
I wish I could remember the name of it. It's a seafood market. It's still in Old Town, but it's like in the neighborhoods.
Back on
And
Eaton Street?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it's called? Eaton Street?
Eaton Street Seafood Market? Right there used to be the old gas station.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's across from
Their
Island
fish
House.
sandwich is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Their shrimp is amazing. Where do you go for coffee and what's your coffee order?
Man, I feel so cheap. My favorite coffee is we don't really go out for coffee. We get our coffee in the hotel room.
Okay.
Yeah, I
No, I
drink my hotel room coffee. And then we wander out into the day.
no. You know what's really funny is my husband and I are bar sitters. So if we go into any place in Key West or anywhere we're at, um,
Hmm.
very rarely sit at a table. We always sit at the bar.
Yeah, same
It's
with
one of
us.
those, it's just one of those things where we talk to the bartender, you get somebody on either side of us, and you can start to have a conversation. If you sit at a table, you never meet people and you never get to have conversations. So we're bar
Yeah,
people.
that's what we do. We walk around. I feel like every time we go to Key West, we meet new people and we
Hmm.
become friends.
Hmm.
And we yeah. This past again, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Go ahead.
We were listening to a Jockey Jord play at I get restaurant names confused between Key West and New Orleans, but is it Two Friends?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right there on Front Street.
almost said that. Yeah.
Yep.
So we're watching him play at Two Friends, and then he's like, "Oh, it's about sunset. Let's take a break." And we went across, and he had this cool little hideout place upstairs, one of the places that he knew, and we got to watch the sunset from up there. And he had a friend there that was with him who's a captain for Mel Fisher's,
Right.
and so we got to meet new people. And then we were talking about the book, and we were talking about Wisteria Island, and
Hmm.
he's like, "I'm actually playing over there tomorrow night. You guys want to come?" And we're like, "Yeah, we want to go."
Ah,
And so we went and listened to Jockey play at Wisteria Island with Drake, who just found that he's the guy who just found that silver bar with Mel Fisher's been all over the news.
oh, that's awesome.
And so Julie and I were like, man, if we wouldn't just randomly talk to
Hmm.
strangers and meet people, and we wouldn't have these experiences. So yeah, my thing when I travel is not so much out to eat, and it's just I try to experience the city as for what it is, as opposed to so I don't have, except for Pepe's. I always go there.
Yeah, I love their homemade bread.
Bloody Mary.
But speaking
Yeah,
of Julie, she says from the Cuban
uh,
coffee stand, you get a plain Cuban coffee, and she
she's
has cream.
right. See,
Yeah, and she gets.
I need Julie. She's right. I always get a Cuban coffee from the. Was she the Cuban? I always forget names. Is it Cuban Coffee Queen?
There's just, yeah, there's several Cuban coffee queens and others, but she needs cream and sugar. But you get just a plain Cuban coffee.
Yeah, yeah. I like the bitterness of I like a good strong coffee. She's
Yeah,
right. I do go get coffee as soon as we're down there. That's like one of my first stops when we're down there.
I have to say, there's something about, and I'm sure it's hot coffee for you, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So there's something about even if it's warm out, I still drink hot coffee, and everybody around me is always ordering iced coffee, and I'm like, no, 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 I just still like my hot coffee. So
yeah. And I like cream and sugar in my coffee as well. But if I'm paying for a cup of coffee, I like to taste the. I want to make sure it's a good tasting cup of coffee. I don't want like.
what another place you should check out if you really like a good, really smooth um, black coffee. Have you been to Doing Work Coffee there on Duval inside Wicked Lick?
No, I've never even heard of it.
So amazing coffee. Daniel, I met with him the last time we were there, and so it's right as you go into Wicked Lick, he's right there, serves coffee there, roasts it right there. But he has a blend that he actually uses the barrels from Key West Legal Distillery, first legal rum distillery. He uses their
Yeah,
barrels for the beans. So it
yeah.
highly
That
recommend.
sounds
Go
unique
check it
enough.
out.
I would go to that one.
Yeah, highly
Speaking of
recommend.
rum barrels, I love the Hemingway, the Papa's Pilar. We did a tour of that distillery, and I fell in love with that rum.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good stuff.
that's a nice place, really nice place, and the rum is very smooth and very dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else that you want to update us on, or that you want to let the viewers know about?
No, just thank you so much for having me, and for everybody watching this now. thank you for tuning in, and for anybody watching it in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, don't hesitate to find me and tell me what you think of my books, good or bad. One of my favorite things to do is read 1-star reviews. So I like I don't mind one way or the other, as long as somebody's reading my work.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, because Julie made a note of this in the comments, that you guys also visit bookstores. If you are in Key West, be sure to head over to Island Books, Key West
Yeah.
Island Bookstore over there. Suzanne over there has a whole end of our books from the Fun in Key West book club there, and Nick's is on the shelf. So be sure to head over there and check them out.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
I love having authors on because that gives us the opportunity to have that new perspective and that wonderful backstory to the stories that you guys write. And I think that Green Flash at Sunset definitely gave our club a lot to chew on, good, bad, and different. I mean, it was a great story. Like I said, I was trying
Thank
to
you.
hurry up and get it done before sunset hit there at Indian Rocks. And I think it also shows that Key West has so much to offer. There's grit, there's heartbreak, there's beauty, it spans the whole spectrum. And I think that's why people are attracted to Key West. And again, I want to thank Cruise and Tiki's as our sponsor. Be sure to check them out. I'm not kidding you. You get to go out on a floating tiki bar. It's a BYOB, but they do supply the captain and the ice and the cooler, and it's a lot of fun. So it's a 6-pack that you can go out there on. More information about all the things that they offer, sunset cruises and everything, over at FunInKeyWest.com/tiki, TIKI. And for you, the listener and the watcher, thank you so much for checking us out. Thanks to Nick for being here. And I want to thank you for joining us and staying with us and being part of our community. In the meantime, there's lots of more information. I'm going to send you over to FunInKeyWest.com. You guys have a great one. Thank you again, Nick.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap, my friend. Huge thanks to Nick Shuck for hanging out with us and giving us the inside scoop on the Green Flash at Sunset. Charter boat captains, street performers, sunsets, and a little island darkness. Yeah, we'll be thinking about this one for a while. And to you, yes, you, the one who stuck around to the very end, thank you. You're the reason we keep doing this. Let's be honest, chatting books in Key West with you is the best part of my week. A big ol' thank you to our sponsor, Cruise and Tiki's of Key West. Picture it, a floating tiki bar, your favorite drinks, it's BYOB, so pack the good stuff, and a captain plus cooler so you have all that you need to float and enjoy. Sunset on the water, yep, doesn't get much better than that. Sail on over to FunInKeyWest.com/tiki, TIKI. Want your own copy of the book or next month's pick? Swing by Key West Island Books and say hi to Suzanne. Tell her we sent you. A few quick little favors before you go. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Drop me a comment. What do you think about the book? Did you read it? Are you read them all? What's been your favorite so far? And come back next time. I've got more fun waiting for you. For everything else under the Key West sun, head over to FunInKeyWest.com. Until next time, keep chasing those green flashes. See you later.